Okay, I think it's live. Let's see here. Why don't we try to share it? Apps. I thought there was like a where you could allow comments and stuff. What happened with that? Chat.
Think of Facebook.
So we'll quickly go to Twitter and tweet it out real fast. I should say.
We're already live. Hey, we're at 16,200. Those Dreamcast pictures definitely help with outreach.
All right, let's see here. Where are we at? I wonder if this. I don't know if...
Is it on mute?
Is one on mute? No, it says it can hear us, so we should be broadcasting. All right, so welcome to the SEGA Nerdcast. I guess this is going to be episode 123. We apologize. Is it 123 or 113? Yeah, it's 113. 113.
You're off by like 10 episodes in the future.
It's late. We've had a long day.
And we have a lot of beers, too.
We've had some beers. But we apologize if this sounds bad. We've been having a lot of issues, just technical issues with our microphone and everything else. So we apologize if this sounds like crap. What we're going to do today is we're basically just going to recap everything that's happened so far for us at E3. And I guess we can start from the very beginning.
And Monday?
We'll start Monday when we first got in. And we'll just discuss the whole E3 experience. Yeah, because this is my first E3. Marcin, this is your second one.
So I could compare the two.
You can compare it to last year, and then we can talk about the game. So before we get on to that, we'll just list what Sega has shown this year at E3. So they had Sonic Mania, Sonic Forces, they had Yakuza 6, Yakuza Kiwami, Etrian Odyssey 5, Radiant Historia, Shin Megami Tensei, Strange Journey Redux, and then they also had the, was it 13 Sentinels, I think?
Yes.
But that wasn't
playable.
Right, it wasn't playable, right. And so that was essentially Sega's showing. But let's go back to...
And Total War Warhammer.
That's right, Total War Warhammer 2.
Yeah.
We're looking at our E3 appointment schedule, which is it's kind of gone out the door because it's just been madness. But so Monday we get in. We flew. So I flew in from New Jersey. I flew in from Jersey to Chicago, which is where we ended up meeting up.
Yeah.
Somehow that was weird how that ended up.
And funny.
It was fun, and it was.
You left me at the altar.
So
like, see ya, bitch.
Right. So we're standing waiting to board, and we're like in like class 5?
We're in group 5, so it's groups 1 through 5, and we're last. But in between waiting until group 5 gets called, they're like, hey, if you're military personnel or all this, you can board now. And this was like maybe ahead of groups 3 and 4 at least. So then you kind of look at me, smirk, say, see you later. And I'm like, you piece of shit. And then you board and then I wait like 20 additional minutes.
And the only thing I think that was a little bit more time to take out my iPad and my Vita and then shove my bag in like the overhead bin. Because I think if I got in group 5, everything would have been completely full, and I would have had to put my bag under the bin, and I wouldn't have had any room.
Then you're like sitting comfortably, and you see all the sweaty group 5 people coming in, and then I come in, and then I start my week off great by hitting my head on the overhead bin as I'm trying to sit myself down. So I just hit my fucking head instead of like I guess I acknowledge it by saying ow, because like I feel like if I just kind of ignored it, it'd just be awkward.
You have
like,
to acknowledge
I just hit my head, right? Like we discussed. I was like, I'm just gonna say that fucking hurt. But yeah.
So the flight was fine. We get in, and that was where everything smooth stopped. So we get into LAX, and we go to get my bags, and they tell us, and this is probably about like 10 o'clock, 10:30,
something like that. We get in around like 9:45, 9:50. But we probably don't leave until like noon.
Right. But yeah, so we get in, and they call we're waiting at baggage pickup. Then I hear my name over the loudspeaker, like Chris Powell, come to the front desk. And at that point I'm like, oh crap, something's going on. So I get there, and they tell me that my bag didn't make it on the flight, and that we're going to have to wait like another hour before the bag is going to make it on the next flight coming in.
Yeah.
And so we wait and wait and wait, and it's basically like another almost 2 hours before I finally get my bag.
Yeah.
And then we have to wait a ridiculous long time from the shuttle. We decided to take the shuttle.
We booked a 12 o'clock shuttle because we thought you'd get your bag by then, because they said your bag would come in at noon, and then 12 o'clock hits, your bag still isn't there, and then we're trying to figure out like if we can transfer the shuttle appointment.
It was a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
And but long story short, we get on the shuttle. We decide what we're going to do is we're just going to go straight to the E3 Convention Center, or the LA Convention Center where E3 is hosted, to pick up our badges.
Yeah.
That way we don't have to mess with it the following day, because E3 officially didn't open. The show floor didn't open until Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
Essentially had like a free day on Monday, but we decided to go get our badges, and that went relatively smoothly. We show up. I guess it didn't go necessarily smoothly, because we show up at the main or like the South Hall, and it has like badge pickup.
Yeah. And
so we go there and to try to get our badges. I'm like, wait, no, this is for like regular attendees.
See, I should have known that, and I knew that, and I vaguely remember like, hey, I picked these up inside, but I'm like, maybe they changed it up this year, because we were asking people outside where they had badge pickups for fans, which is a thing that maybe I don't know if you want to talk about it now or later. We'll definitely talk
about it later, but we'll get into it. Yeah. So they tell us to go to another wing of the convention center. We end up doing that, and we find our way to the media thing, and that went relatively smooth. Once we got that, we got our badges, and we ended up getting an Uber back to our. I can remember what happened the rest of the day on Monday.
PlayStation press conference.
Oh, that's right.
You fell asleep.
Well, what ended up happening before then, we decided, because we hadn't eaten all day, so we went to Hooters, and we had like 2 pitchers of beer.
2 pitchers.
And we were both drunk, and I decided, we decided we want to catch up on the press conferences because we had been missing them.
Microsoft and Ubisoft and Sony's.
Right.
So
we got caught up on that. I passed out for a few hours. I woke back up and rewatched the PlayStation.
Well, I watched it and then I passed out. But like because I wanted to see if there was anything Sega related at the press conference, and there wasn't. There wasn't anything Sega related.
Right.
In any of them actually, and you didn't get news until I think it was Tuesday. Basically, like they released their own stuff, their own trailers.
We're gonna let's turn on the video.
If they want to see our
maybe it's gonna be more
dead eyes.
And all right, so comes around and the show floor doesn't open until noon, and so that it was kind of weird, right?
Well, because like we wake up early, right? Because we kind of fell asleep around like 9 or fell asleep midday, and then wake up and then like, okay, well, let's go back to sleep,
right?
And then you wake up at like 6 a.m.
We finally, so we decided we ended up getting there, and we get in. And we find the Sega booth, and that was relatively easy to find. It's like
right there at the entrance.
Yeah, like you go through the main hall. It was at the West Hall that we were in.
The West Hall is where we went today. I think that was.
Is it the South Hall or the East? The North? I don't know.
It's
whatever
one of the
Sega
directions.
was. So it was in the main booth where Sony, Nintendo.
It's the main. It's the main floor,
right? But Microsoft was not there. They were in
the separate one,
with Square Enix,
Capcom, Square Enix, Indicate.
But what was cool is like right when you come in, Sega's booth was very prominent. It was right to your left. Sega had a very, very nice booth. I was very impressed.
It was much nicer than last year.
Yeah.
So like last year was nice too because they had like a stage. So last year, Persona 5 was the thing for Sega and Atlas. And they had a stage with like a giant black wall and an LED screen. And, they had the PR guy come on and talk about Persona. And they also had events throughout the day, like scheduled throughout the day that had like Persona stuff, but also Yakuza stuff. They had creator of Yakuza, Nagoshi-san, come out and talk and do stuff like that last year. But this year it looked much bigger, like bigger budget. It looked like they had more space too, taking up more space on the floor, which is good. Which means I feel like Sega got a bigger piece of the pie, which is always good for us, And
we check in, and this was like the start of the madness because we start talking to the Sega PR folks, and I think there was a lot of confusion, especially like early on during the show, because they were trying to figure out like how they were going to line everyone up, and it was just madness. Like there was just a gaggle like of everywhere.
You're referring to yesterday? Because today was also a fuck up.
It was better today though. It was better as far as the lines go. They fixed it, but they didn't know what they were doing as far as like how they were going to queue everyone up. We decided we were going to sit in line for Sonic Mania, and that was the first one we went to, right? And we were in line for it wasn't that long. It was maybe half an hour.
Yeah,
it was maybe half an hour, which in retrospect, it wasn't that bad.
Which is good, all things considered, when you compare it to today.
Yeah. So they had, for Sonic Mania, they had Green Hill Zone Act 2 and Mirage Saloon Zone Act 2. And so let's give our thoughts, starting with Green Hill Zone Act 2. This was both of our first time playing, I think, Sonic Mania, right? Yeah. What do you think about it?
I like it. It was fantastic. Like the music, the gameplay, the way the game flowed, the way they remixed Green Hill Zone, and then Mirage Saloon, like just the way it was designed and all of it, just in general, like, and the way they added new things into the levels, the new moves that Sonic has, the way Eggman's boss is much different, also more difficult. I feel like they made it more difficult for players to beat the level. Because if you guys remember in Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2, the first boss that difficult. This guy is definitely much harder to beat the original first 2 games, and I thought that was great that they added a bit of a layer of challenge the first level in the game.
I'm fairly certain Green Hill Zone Act 2 has been shown plenty of times before. I don't think that was a relatively new stage.
No.
I'm not sure about Mirage Saloon Zone, though, as far as if it's been shown and demoed previously. But you're right. Like, Green Hill Zone was really good, especially in comparison to it was reimagined, I think, in a very clever way. Just throughout the whole level itself, there was a lot more challenges just from the standpoint of different, like, environmental challenges, and also going back to Robotnik, basically the way that in boss is for that level, it's Robotnik in his big, like, dude, I forget well, I forget what the term for that robot or whatever it is, but it looks like the one that's the end boss, I think, in Sonic 2.
Yeah, he's got a giant mech suit and he's got a metal thing that extends.
It's a metal arm that extends. So he's walking from the left side of the screen. The screen is scrolling, it's forcing you to move to the right, and there's like little platforms that show up, and you have to jump off the platforms and hit Robotnik's head, and all the while he's targeting you with a reticle. And once he targets you, he shoots out a small Robotnik bomb that will blow up in a few seconds, and you have to kind of move past that. The idea is that you're trying to get close enough to where Robotnik will shoot out his metal arm. You can jump on that and then run up and hit him. I think I tried twice, and I ended up dying both times, because if you don't beat him quick enough, the ground essentially ends in a cliff, and you have to jump off into, like,
well, either jump off or be good at dodging him with this much space in between.
Well, but I mean, he'll continue to keep walking, and you have no space to defeat him.
I think I beat him the first time.
You did not beat him the first time. You beat him the second time. You beat him the second time.
I'm glad you kept count.
I did, and then so that was really fun. I was very, very impressed. There were some new power-ups. I don't remember what they were called or anything like that, but I remember one was fireball power-up. It was like a reddish, yellowish orb that I was able to get, and it seemed like it gave me, like, super speed, almost like invincibility. Able to jump up and then do, like, a dash, and I could dash through, like, walls. And I remember there was one part where I used that ability, and I dashed through a wall, and I was able to crush through it, and I ended up getting another power-up. It was like Sonic Shoes, and then I was able to go even faster. There was another strange power-up that I think you got, and it was like a blue orb, but it wasn't like the bubble that you typically get or anything like that, but it changed the color and, like, the HUD to a blue from your...
And it wasn't what it did specifically, and I couldn't tell based on me playing, and then after I picked up, I didn't see a difference in whatever I was doing.
I don't know what it was. I'm sure it's probably common knowledge out there.
Yeah, we're probably ignorant.
Well, yeah,
right now, but
I'm sure it's known, but offhand, I didn't realize what it did, and I'm sure there's probably some other power-ups. Going into Mirage Saloon Zone, I was really impressed with that level. I think offhand that's an original level that they did.
We could be wrong, but
I don't remember that ever being in another Sonic game, right? But like I said, we could be wrong. Who knows? But I really liked the theme of it. It's set like Old West. It's in a desert, and throughout the level, you're going into the different saloon-style areas where it's like a bar. And you can jump on stools that are like platforms, and as you jump on the stools, you'll spin in like 360 degrees. You can jump off them really high, and then you'll also go into areas that have like large piano keys, and you bounce off of them and as they're doing that, it's playing music and things like that. The music itself is really good, and it's more of like a saloon theme. I think it has more like piano. It's like more of a piano-y type thing, something similar to what you'd feel or hear in an old west saloon.
That's what I mentioned to you after the game, and then we kind of went off to the corner and kind of recorded our thoughts just to kind of go back and analyze them. Is that user of Sonic games, and I feel like they hit it out of the park with Sonic Mania's soundtrack, which I think is fantastic, and I think it's going to be a thing that fans will really appreciate when they get to play the full game, which comes out in August. And I know that I'm going to be playing that shit on my 7.1 surround sound speakers on PS4.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. I'm really excited for other people to play too, because I think it's great. So,
lasting thoughts, final thoughts from that. I think Sonic is going to be something special.
Maybe better than Sonic Forces. But
no, I think just judging it from strictly 2D games,
we can't really judge it,
I can only judge from what I played, and if what I is representative of the full game as good as what we played, I think it's going to go down as one of the best 2D Sonic games ever made.
And especially since we have had a string of Sonic games that haven't been up to par with what I know Sonic fans have grown a bit jaded. Sega fans specifically have become jaded, in reference to the Sonic series. You've had good titles here and there. I think Sonic Lost, Sonic Colors was good. But overall, when you look at the past 15 years, it wasn't necessarily the best. And I feel like Sonic Mania will actually really, give fans what they were hoping for, for a long time. And are going to appreciate the amount of effort that Sega has put into this game. And I think it's going to be an image booster for Sonic, and I think the popularity of him and the brand will actually increase after this game comes out. So, yeah,
it's going to be interesting. This is the game that had been eluding me for so long. I think I talked about this.
Right, and Graham has played it, and he said you haven't played it, and you finally.
I finally did it. This was the game. If I could play one game, the game I wanted to play, and we were able to do that. And I made sure that was the first game we played because of that very reason. We'll go back at the end to talk about played so far, so we won't do that yet. So we played Sonic Mania. From there, we went over, because the Sonic Forces, basically the way they did it, Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces, the lines were right next to each other. And on one side of two sides of games and screens, basically. Yep. On one side was Sonic Mania, on the other side was Sonic Forces. After we got done with Sonic Mania, we essentially would have to go back to the beginning of the line. And I guess this would probably be a good time to talk about the lines, because
the issue with the lines and even appointments, I guess. I fully understand, with we were talking to that one guy in the Total Hammer line about him getting appointments pretty easily. You
call it Total Hammer.
Total Hammer, total War. Jesus Christ. He got appointments pretty easily. That's basically because the games that he played weren't titles. With things like Sonic Forces, Sonic Mania, you're going to have appointments fill up really quickly, right, just because of the name, the recognition, the brand, whatever.
So basically the way Sega did it is a week or 2 weeks before E3, they would send out emails. It was weeks before. It wasn't 4 weeks for sure.
But we definitely did respond.
Yeah.
In a time.
So Sega would send out appointments saying, hey, if you want an appointment during E3, War Warhammer, let us know. And we immediately responded yes, we'll do this. Here's the day. here's the rough time frame, but we're flexible. So we were able to get Total Warhammer early. We sent our replies back to Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces. Never heard anything back on that. And different PR companies to essentially handle. There were some Sega PR folks that were handling stuff like, but mainly it was like a different PR company that we were working with. And it was funny because some of the same contacts that we were working with for that were also sending me you care about that were non-Sega related. But long story short, we weren't able to get appointments for Sonic Mania or Sonic Forces. So we basically had to wait in line. And because this year there were like an influx of 15,000, like just, I guess, I don't know what the term, fans. Okay, yeah, that's a good term. I don't want to make a derogatory term.
Well, it's that context, background. So E3, the companies and people that kind of pulled out from it for multiple reasons, want to do their own show. Some of them want to, do other things, and they don't want to put in the money to, free.
It's a huge. I mean, it is a significant commitment from a monetary standpoint, and just from everything.
So, like when you look at it from, like the people who coordinate E3 from their perspective. Okay, well, we still need the money. We need, to get a form of income in. So they decided to open up E3 so people that aren't in the industry. I believe they've done this before. I'm pretty sure they've done this before. But for a majority of the time, it's been industry only, industry and media. And last year, when you compare it to this year, wait times for video games has been doubled or tripled. 15,000 people to the same amount of space that last year I thought was still pretty hectic, and you add 15,000 more people, that just makes it a giant cluster. And I've had people who I've worked with last year who have said the exact same thing. They've noticed the exact same thing where it's like for games that you normally would expect to wait 30, 40 minutes, you wait 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and then a convention is from 10 to 6, you're going to be spending half of your day for one game and not experience, the rest of the show floor. It's almost impossible.
Right. And we were discussing some ideas that I think going forward, the E3 organizers need to take a long, hard look at because of this. And I think maybe a good alternative would be have 3 days of media and industry, like it typically was. And two would be and then that way you give your media and industry 3 full days of access, and then the last day or two it would be just for fans, and then that way it would cut down because you could have all the industry media people leave and be done with it, and then it would be for the fans, and it would cut down.
Like I'm not holding it against the fans or the people who bought the tickets, and I fully understand. Like, hey, I mean, like, so hey, more power to you. You have if you have the money, and I've seen people like from around the world who had those tickets, and they flew here to experience this, and that's great, But from like our perspective. Especially
it made it really hard to do our job.
Exactly. So like, especially when you have people who are going there specifically to actually like report on these games that companies want us to report on and spread publicity on. It's difficult to cover every time. Like I said, half of your day is consumed by waiting in line for one game, and we still have like 4 or 5 games from your company that you want.
And we looked at the line.
Right.
And most of the people in line were people with fans. the green like each like badges are separated by distinct
colors and things like that. So people who are in the industry have a blue highlighted hue type thing at the bottom of their badge. Media has yellow.
We can show them.
Yeah, mine's in my backpack, so I can't really tell where mine is, but I think yours is somewhere. But media badges get the yellow line. Industry gets blue. Anybody who works in a company, maybe if you're a developer or you just work where Unix or something in some form.
Badge has a color. Yellow is media, blue is industry. And if you're a fan, the plastic is your badge was green, and that way it kind of sticks out, and you can
it says
tell.
Expo Pass on it, but then I saw other people who have Expo Pass, and they don't seem like it wasn't. So I'm not sure if maybe they had different tiers of that.
I think maybe
there's also like VIP Expo.
Those are people I think that had like there were different of that, like you could pay at some sort of better access or something.
Well, like we got, like I told you the other day, it's like you could tell the people who are like the fans or whatever, and then people who are coming in there to like work. You know what I mean?
So basically, what it came down to, one of the frustrations I had was that I don't want to make it sound like, from a media standpoint, it would have been nice to at least be able to go to the front of the lines when we're waiting in these lines. At
least like, you know, like we talked about Six Flags, and we were saying like, hey, look, they have a flash pass or something that kind of makes you bring to the front of the line. It would be nice, you know, to have like a separate line for that. But again, I feel like that would then have some conflict, or like it would bring up some sort of issues, like if you had like a separate line media. But you know what? I feel like you could maybe dedicate like a line for media, and they could also have like their own booth.
Here's the problem, though. Let's go back to this. So Sega was scheduling appointments that would around some of this issue. They were scheduling appointments, but here's the thing: they weren't scheduling appointments for all their games. They scheduled appointments for Total War Warhammer, Sonic Forces,
and Sonic
Mania. And I think that is pretty much it. Kiwami, not for Yakuza 6. And none of the Atlas games. I don't think they were.
No.
Because the recently released ones like Shin Megami Tensei and those games on 3DS. And I don't know if the Shin Megami Tensei game was playable. I think it was Etrian Odyssey and the other one. But they weren't scheduling any events or any appointments for that. So basically you had to wait in line.
No matter what.
And we ended up going, so after Sonic Mania, we went over to the Yakuza thing to check that out because the Sonic getting really long. So we went over there and we got in line and we ended up playing Yakuza Kiwami. I have to go piss.
Okay.
So you talk about Yakuza Kiwami because I think we both played that, right?
We did both play Yakuza Kiwami, but I'll tell you my perspective, and I think I saw you play because I was recording it. But Kiwami, I believe it's $30, and the reason why it's cheaper than most Yakuza games is because it's a complete remake of the first game. But with that, it also doesn't have as many features as Yakuza 0 or Yakuza 6, which comes out next year. But again, it's $30-$40, and it's a great value, and it's a complete, you know, head to toes remake of the first game. But if you've played Yakuza before, it's you know the things that you've come to expect from the humor that they have. It's tongue-in-cheek. Battle system is still fantastic.
So about the battle system, though.
Yeah.
Let's back it up because it's not the same battle system from Yakuza 1. They essentially added the Yakuza 0 battle system in there. So you can basically with the D-pad you can switch. If you're Kiryu, you can switch from like dragon to brute to four different fighting styles. Why?
Right.
You could do that, but that wasn't in the original Yakuza game, Yakuza 1. You couldn't do that. Okay. No, that was added in Yakuza 0. They kept that.
So they kept that, but like some of the a lot of the features in 0 where it had like a shit ton of like extra do. I don't think they included all of that.
No. It's what they did. Some of the improvements that they made from a gameplay and like a game mechanics standpoint, they put that into Yakuza Kiwami. From a story standpoint, I think from a content standpoint, it's still very close to what that original game was.
Yeah.
But it's all updated and everything else. So there is some genuine improvements that have gone into Yakuza Kiwami, and especially at like what was it, $30?
30 or 40, but it's no more than that. And I actually appreciate them doing this, from a marketing standpoint, because Yakuza has been around for a while, 2004, 2005. But I feel like it didn't really hit its stride or get real popular until recently, at least in the West. So I think it was smart for them, Yakuza 0, and then remake the first one and release that in the West as well. So people kind of get, Yakuza 2, 3, or 4, or even 5, you're going to be lost. So reintroducing the series to new people is a smart idea. Comes out, I believe, also in August or September. It's around that time. And if you like Yakuza 0, if you guys play Yakuza 0, you're gonna like, which is essentially the follow-up to 0. And I think that see, if you played 0 and 1, then you have to play 2. 2 only came out on PlayStation 2, and I believe they came out with like a slight HD remaster on PS3. I feel like maybe they'll re-release, 2, 3. If you haven't played 5, 5 is fantastic. Yakuza 6 comes out next year, which we played today. And visually, Yakuza 6 looks much better than Kiwami, I think.
Yeah, let's back up a little bit. I don't want to get into Yakuza. I don't want to get into Yakuza 6 yet.
Yeah,
I'm trying to go chronologically if we can,
because of our journey.
Right. So, okay, let's back up, because we had an interesting thing happen between. I think it may have been between Mania played Yakuza Kiwami. We were supposed to have a meeting with one of the Sega Mobile bosses.
Yes.
We have to be careful what we say. But
can we say it?
Okay, so Sega sent us an email appointments, and they wanted us to. They requested that we had a meeting with one of the Sega Mobile bosses because there was a presentation that they wanted to make
of a thing.
It was very vague.
Mm-hmm.
It was very non-Sega Forever specific.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone knows the elephant in the room, right? So we assumed it's something Sega Forever related. Very excited about that. So we were like, yes, we absolutely want to be in on this. We want to do this. We want to make an appointment. And we send the reply back. We don't hear anything. We send a follow-up email.
I call the person.
Yeah, we make phone calls and phone
twice or 3 times.
So what we end up doing, because I realize this is a really important, right? It's a new initiative, yeah. A new initiative with Sega Mobile. What it is. So what we end up doing is we start asking around and like, hey, because it's weird because with Sega, when looking at their badges, it wasn't just Sega employee. It was very specific as to what branch they were. In, yeah. So you would see people from Sega of America. You would see Sega Mobile. You would see Sega Networks.
Sega Games.
Sega Games.
Toshi or Nagoshi at
we'll
Sega
get to
Gaming.
that. We'll get to that. Don't spoil it. So, the thing is, we start asking around and say, hey, we need to talk to someone from Sega Mobile because we needed to have this presentation and no one got back to us on it. And if it's still happening, we want to get in on it. One of the PR people get this, another like female PR lady. We won't do names or anything like that. And so there is in the stage in the E3 or the Sega E3 booth, there's also like some stairs. There's a second floor, which we found out is like where
that's like the Sega, like they have their own
area
for Sega.
Yes, it's like the Sega's executives, like where all the bigwigs hang out. And so they're like, hey, we're gonna bring you up here and we're gonna figure this out. Come to find out,
I felt like a pleb going up there. It's like, oh, have some coffee and whatever. I'm like around these big
it felt
suits
weird. And so we go up there and all of a sudden, like, I don't know if you noticed, but I would try to get your attention, dude. Like Nagoshi is right there.
I was trying. I did see. I was trying to just sneak.
And so like
picture,
like all of Sega Japan guys are there. Like we see Oshima, Izuka, Nagoshi is there. Like they're all up there. Sega of Europe's new president was up there. I forget his name. I can't want to say Jack Wade. Jack Wade is from Headhunter. I don't know why I was. He seems like a Jack Wade.
The guy is the successor to Jürgen Post, who left recently from Sega of Europe. But so his name does escape me too.
Right. So he's there. They're all there. But come to find out that the executive that we're supposed to meet for whatever reason wasn't able to make the trip out here, so we had to reschedule. Able to get whatever that is, but it was good because we didn't miss out on it because no one got it right. So we weren't able to do that, which it was a bummer, but they said that we're going to be able to do a Skype. So that's going to be coming in the next week or two.
Hopefully.
We have our card.
We're
going to hit her up. And it's a different person. But that's going to come here very soon. And we hope to be able to break all of that here very soon and kind of discuss whatever this new Sega Mobile initiative is. Which is interesting because during this whole time frame, while we're here, we got packages. You did and I did, and Graham did.
And Sega has been teasing stuff during E3.
Sega Forever's Twitter account has been teasing. We got that package in the mail. It was like a manila envelope, and it said to be this good takes ages or something along those lines on the outside. You open it up.
Maybe it's Forever. I think it has something to do with Forever.
And it's a cassette tape, and it has all these classic Sega tape, which we assume all the games that are on that cassette tape are going to be involved in it. And I think was there
Space Harrier?
Was there like 8 or something like that? There was about 16 games ranging from like Space Harrier, Outrun. It's your standard. It wasn't anything. It was basically all 16-bit arcade games, like Sega arcade games that also came to Genesis and things like that. There wasn't really that stood out to me that were like, oh my gosh.
I thought Vector Man. Was it Vector Man?
Vector Man's, but that's been on all the collections and stuff like that. It's nothing. It's basically stuff that's been on every other collection, but it's still really cool.
But their the marketing plan is unique and interesting, and it's a legitimate cassette tape with actual music on it.
Right.
And it's a cassette tape in 2017. So, they sent this out fully, assuming maybe we have a cassette player.
To me, but I don't have a cassette player. Fortunately, Graham still lives in the dark ages.
He's got a boombox from 1999.
He got a boombox, and if you go to our channel, you can actually see his I wouldn't say the unboxing because it wasn't a box, but he unveiling. He unveiled it, and he played it, and you can hear some Outrun. What was the song? What was
was like something showers. I was gonna say golden showers, but that's obviously not it.
Something, whatever.
It's a song from Outrun.
It's the
all you
Outrun
need to know.
song.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It sounds great, even on cassette.
The first one was Space Harrier. That was on
it was
Space Harrier.
It was Space Harrier.
But there was a song on Outrun, and I thought it was Golden Showers. That's not what it's
not
called.
what it's
not
called.
what it's called.
Anyway, so
Speaking of Golden Showers, I'll be right.
So that goes. So that was like that actually took place in our Sonic Mania and Yakuza Kiwami playthrough. I'm trying to think back, like what we ended up doing after Kiwami. And I want to say that may have ended up being the end of our day. That because we had appointments with Total War. And I think what we ended up doing was we walked around and tried to find some of the other stuff that we wanted to do, because we heard that Toe Jam and Earl Back in the Groove was going to be at the Adult Swim Games booth. The Adult Swim Games booth was like non-existent. We could not find it. We heard that
stupid.
We heard that it was over at the Cartoon Network area, but we went over to the Cartoon Network. Here's another beer if you want. And it was just like a meeting room, like modular. Cube was like an office style, and it was all closed off.
It was a closed off area in a corner somewhere.
It was
made a wrong turn.
It was really weird. Thing else on day one, other than and Mania, I think that was really all we.
Well, I mean, they started at 12, ended at 6. We had a meeting at 4 at games.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Can we say anything about that? Can we say we had a meeting?
We had a meeting, and if you look on our website, you could probably gather what it was about.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I couldn't remember. And can you get that? Over here, grab that. Over there.
Oh,
so after we left, we took home this. We took home the other one, the other Ad Games model. So this is okay. What I'm holding up, obviously, for our audio listeners, this is the Ad Games Sega Genesis Classic Game Console. This was the one from last year. This is it came with wired controllers. We also got one with wireless, and then Marcin got the handheld.
I'm using this on the plane.
So
it's pretty good.
The reason why we have this is not to schmooze us or whatever.
No.
But it's going to be a point of reference.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I'm going to say.
It's definitely a good point of reference.
It's a good point of reference.
A good comparison.
We were playing on the wired one this morning, and it brought back a lot of bad memories of my ears bleeding when I played some of these back in the day. This certainly is not great on these older Ad Games models, but I will say,
and the portable one.
But I will say, just from a gameplay standpoint,
gameplay's good. Gameplay's good,
like,
and visually, it's all fantastic.
It almost felt like playing Streets of Rage 2. It almost felt like the frames per second were a little bit faster than what they were on the original Genesis. Like, it felt really good. It felt smooth and everything else. What I can say is that what Saw and did there is going to be in issue 4 of Megavision. When we published issue 4, all of our thoughts and everything that happened there included there. We got a lot of stuff. And so I think it's going to be really good for Megavision's there. We'll probably also post something on Sega Nerds too. But we got a lot of good stuff there. I couldn't remember. I was thinking, like man, we could have played just like 2 games, and then so that pretty much took us to the end of the day. And then what do we do? What do we do after that? Is that the night
we met with Corey Marshall?
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that.
So after we had this super secret, top secret meeting, We had a meeting with Corey Marshall, who's the voice actor of Ryo Hazuki from Shenmue.
I wouldn't call it a meeting. We went to dinner.
I meant like after we had a super secret top meeting with @Games.
Oh, I thought you said we had a meeting with Corey Marshall.
You said that, yeah. Probably did. But we had dinner with from Shenmue. We had also Leon and Randall Lob, I believe that's his last name. They are doing a documentary on Shenmue right now. Randall has done other documentaries, things for like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and things like that. They've done stuff with Nickelodeon and other great stuff. Very talented guys.
I think I've fallen in love with Randall.
He's
over this
great.
weekend. Like he is like probably one of the coolest dudes I've met in a long time. Like he's the kind of guy that you could sit there and listen to stories
all day.
He's got so many awesome stories, like just ranging from, but a lot of it's like doing documentaries with like He-Man and Turtles and Nickelodeon, and he knows like everybody.
That's your forte. He was like 80s.
It's like it's right up my alley, but he's also like.
But he has other background to like he was an English teacher and he's dealt with the military. I'm like match made in heaven for you.
And so it was funny because like. So Adam Korlick, right, was there.
And Adam Korlick was there too, yes, from Figure It Out Productions, and he's in 4 other YouTube channels. He's also a great guy. He lives in Chicago, so he's like right up my alley. So that was great to see again.
But it was funny though because while you two Adams and Corey were talking, y'all were like
bubble.
In your conversation, me and Randall were like just engaged, like we were completely talking about like random stuff ranging from video games to the military, like and came up like every it seemed like everything that I loved in life was the same thing that he liked. And so we ended up just him and I just talking all night long, and I felt kind of bad because I was like, man, this is an opportunity just to kind of hang out and talk to Corey Marshall too. Corey, like him and I kind of went off to the side for a little bit and we talked, but it was funny that we didn't talk about Shenmue.
What did you talk about?
We didn't talk about video games. We talked about being dads. We talked about, because I've seen on social media, like him and I are friends on Facebook and stuff, and I know that, he's trying to get his daughter into like voice acting and acting and things like that. So I just asked him, like, how's that going? And he's kind of updating me, and I let him know that my daughter just graduated high school, and we just kind of started talking about like, and how hard it is being fathers, connected on that point. And we talked for about 20 minutes or so about look on being a father and like what we can provide for our children and stuff. It was really fun. Like it was really interesting to talk to him about that. I mean, Corey's a really interesting guy. He can be soft-spoken but intense at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But he's a genuine guy too, like I
genuinely nice too.
Yeah, he's genuinely nice. I think he really cares about community and what he can kind of bring to it, like I think he knows that is tied to his legacy as being a voice actor. It's always going to be very
the thing,
right? And so,
like Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, or it's him and Ryo Hazuki,
right? And a good job of trying to
give back to the community too.
Yeah. So, what were some of the things that you guys like were talking about there? Because I didn't hear anything.
I feel like there are certain things that so certain things we talked about that I can't say.
Sure.
For obvious reasons, and I'll let you guys trying to figure that out yourselves. But a lot of it was just like sharing Shenmue and things like that for a while, and I could talk about that for days. And I've done that on multiple occasions, and even with them I've met them before, and it's lasted not a couple hours, but it's lasted a while, about that topic, and there's always something different that we bring up and discuss. Talking with Adam, Scipio, and Corlick, I guess I have to be specific. Both of them, just like genuinely nice guys. I loved hearing, the new updates on the documentary. Also, kind of delving into the process of how that documentary is being developed, and the bumps that while creating a documentary, specifically Shenmue, but like maybe just documentaries in general, the process of it and all that stuff. And I found that fascinating. Also talking with Adam Corlick about Shenmue, which was interesting, and kind of also picking his brain about his experience at E3 and all the things that he's seen and his thoughts on E3 so far. Was good and valuable information. Talking with Corey as well, like some of it was Shenmue, some of it was also just like other things, like how you said, because like I met him last year. Last year, I think it was day 2 or day 3. He was supposed to meet up with some people, with some Shenmue fans, and I was one of them. And we met at the ramen place that we went to today in Spot. I think that's probably why I subconsciously picked it. But it was good. It was good. Good food. Yeah. Good. And last year, like, we just talked for me and then another fan. It's like some people initially came, but then they went, and then we just like drank a lot of beer and just talked for a while, and that was fantastic. This year was great. Like, we met at the Grand Central Market or something like that. Yeah. And that was great. And we got a photo which we shared on social media. And a thing that we forgot to mention was the Dreamcast thing where we took funny captions on social media just because we thought it'd be funny. Clearly, people reacted positively to it. We started that on Tuesday. The Dreamcast making appearance. We heard that the Dreamcast would make an appearance.
It was our prediction that the Dreamcast is gonna make a return to
E3,
and it did.
And in a sense, it did. We went outside. We did a couple of shots in front of the SEGA booth. I think that was it for Tuesday, right? And then Wednesday we did a couple more interesting ones. Oh wait, no. First day we actually got Sonic the Hedgehog to hold the Dreamcast. Right? Yeah,
that was fun.
We got the official SEGA Sonic, the official Sonic mascot. Whoever was in that suit was working for SEGA, and we got him to hold our Dreamcast and take a picture.
Quiet now a little bit.
Maybe.
It's getting late, so we're trying to keep it down because our neighbors next door.
It sounds like they're still partying, so it's okay.
So we did get someone asked us a question on Twitter as we're doing this. So they asked, did they even reveal anything?
Who's they?
SEGA. They is SEGA. And so, no, SEGA didn't reveal anything. It was what SEGA, when they put out their E3 listing of what the games they were going to show, which when we posted that earlier in the week, I think it was like Monday, and we said, like, this seems reasonable and what we expected. So the one thing I think that I didn't I expected to see there, that I was surprised that it wasn't there, was Valkyria Revolution.
Yeah.
Like, all. Valkyria Revolution was not at anything, or even commercials for it, like during the,
like on screens and stuff.
There was no screens of it. There was nothing.
They had shots of like Bayonetta and I'm pretty sure Vanquish on the thing, but there was no Valkyria.
There was some Bayonetta stuff, but there was no
Valkyria Revolution,
and that's their next big release.
Yeah.
But there was no mention of it there. I do plan on asking about that tomorrow because Marston's leaving in the morning. I don't leave until like 10 o'clock at night, so I'm going to go back for one more full day of E3 leave. And I do want to ask about that, like what's up with Valkyria Revolution, because I would have expected them to have demos of that there.
Yeah,
that's their next big release. It's just weird that, and maybe it's just the fact that a finite amount of space, and they didn't feel that they needed to promote that.
I feel like they had some space where the 3DS games were. They could have like
they did have a lot of space there, and they could have done that. You're right. Interesting. I would like to find an answer to that question. So anyway, that's day one. Day two is today.
Mm-hmm.
So we start out. We get there a little bit late. The doors open at 10 o'clock. I think we get there like 10:30, and we go and look at the Sonic Forces and Sonic Mania lines, and they're just insanely long, like
longer
double,
than yesterday,
almost double of what they were yesterday. So we're like, okay, we're not going to do this. Let's go over to Yakuza 6 because we didn't play that yesterday. We get in line. There's like a girl with a stick that says end of line, and underneath that it has like an estimated wait time. So anything of it, because it is long, but it didn't seem like overly long.
Mm-hmm.
And then look at her sign, and I'm like, wait a second, what is that? And it says estimated wait time is 4 hours.
The day
it is
of E3.
And I'm like, wait, are you serious that it's 4 hours? And she's like, well, yeah. And I was like, well, how long is the demo? And she said
like
it was about 15 to 20 minutes is the demo. And I was just like let's just get out of here.
But then when we came back, and I felt like the line was the same length.
Well, yeah, we ended
up
like,
hey, it's 1 hour.
So what we did, after that, we went and we walked around because we hadn't really had a chance to just walk around all the different halls and just see everything.
We were basically like in the area of SEGA.
We didn't leave. And keep in mind, we also had a 2 o'clock meeting appointment for Total War.
Mm-hmm.
So we knew that we were bumping up against that. So we couldn't 4 hours, and we wouldn't have even been able to wait in line, play the demo, and then go to that. And so we ended up just walking around and seeing some other things. And I think we saw some of the stuff that they were doing at the Etrian Odyssey, and some of the stuff we saw some of the Atlas
like
stuff.
Every half hour, like
they would do presentations
about like the games on the 3D.
And I got some recordings of that actually. I don't know if I'm going to upload them to YouTube or anything like that.
One thing you forgot to mention, it was day one. Was we saw Toshiro Nagoshi on Tuesday while we were waiting for. And we were waiting in line for Kiwami, or we were waiting in line for 6, and then we happened to play Kiwami. But anyway, saw Nagoshi like just in the back, just kind of like observing the queue in the line of his creation, basically, with his I don't know if he's an assistant or producer or translator or whatever, and he was there talking with. Who was the other guy who had the Dreamcast with him?
He does a Sonic Fan Jam.
Was that him with the Dreamcast?
Yeah. I forget his name now.
Regardless,
Corey Maru, I think is what his name is. Patrick Gardner.
But yeah, so he had a Dreamcast like us. He carried it around, and he saw him first and went up to him and asked for his Dreamcast, and he was waiting. He was about to, get it signed, and he asked them for a Sharpie, and they didn't have one. And he thought, maybe he had one in his backpack. He didn't. We didn't have a Sharpie, so he ended up not getting his Dreamcast signed by Nagoshi, and ended up getting a picture. So we were observing this in line, and then we were like, well, this guy's getting a picture with a Dreamcast. We have a Dreamcast. Let's leave the line, ask the people in line to hold our spot, and, take a picture, let us take a picture with Nagoshi. And Megavisions, our magazine for mobile devices. Oh, yeah, sure. That was great. Fantastic. He let us take a picture with it. We showed Nagoshi and the producer guy, our magazine, which was fantastic. I thought that was great. Spreading the word to like people all the way at the top and just kind of get our name out there. It was great. We didn't get it signed either because we didn't have a Sharpie. We bought it today, but we didn't see him again.
No. Today.
Yeah.
But he was in like
he was talking
he was on the second floor upstairs. Of like the SEGA loft.
He was in a circle with like some guys.
So anyway, so we went and played Total War Warhammer 2. The first game we played today, and that was fun. So I just started playing Total War Warhammer, the first one, over the past weekend, and I started getting into that, and that is a really fun game. I've always enjoyed RTSs. Them on PC, all that much.
Are you sure or no?
Really. It was, I didn't have PC when it really came out, and I was never really interested in PC gaming. I was more of a console guy. I really enjoyed what I played of Warhammer. So with Warhammer 2, they're introducing like 3 new races. I think it's the Dark Elves, the High Elves, and the Lizardmen.
People?
Yeah. The scenario for Warhammer 2, for what we played and what they showed, was essentially were coming into this, it almost looked like a Mayan temple. Yeah. To perform some sort of ritual with these wizards, elven wizards.
People.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you controlled the Lizardmen, and you had to stop them from doing it. I played on easy. I think you played.
I played on easy. Yeah.
But it was really, really good. From what I played, it was very similar to Warhammer 1. I don't remember there being much differences. I know they detailed some of the improvements and things like that. But it was a really solid game. It's one of those games that it's still hard to kind of associate with Sega.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of the Sega Europe stuff doesn't really feel PC stuff. Doesn't Sega. You know what I mean? In the traditional
we associate
sense.
With
you associate Sega with like Blue Skies, arcade gaming, and everything else.
It's like
Sega
Football
Europe,
Manager, Total War.
and Sega Europe is so, but in a good way. Like, I mean, they have etched out their own identity,
right?
And they're doing really good things on PC.
And it's smart because like the things that they've cranked out has given them a great amount of revenue. It's a smart business.
Aren't
Atlas and all
selling 5 million copies or anything like that. But they're solid sellers. They're niche products. A high level of what they do on almost every game that they're doing, from Football Manager to Total War. Who's the guys? Relic, to what Relic's doing. Super high level, super
critically acclaimed games. Like has the best of E3 2017 from a couple of websites. And it's like, it's not like they're delivering shit. They're delivering high quality stuff. Maybe not honest, it's a cup of tea for everybody because not everybody's a real-time strategy fan. But like for people who are, and even people who want to get into it, it's a fantastic game. StarCraft 2, I got introduced to that like 3-4 years ago. I played that for a bit, and I'm okay at it, So, but
I was really impressed with that. I definitely want to pick that up. I don't know if I'm ever going to finish it. I probably won't, but I will play it. From there, we said go back in line. We're like, fuck it, let's just go back to Yakuza, and we're going to see how it is.
Like we have to do it anyway, so we have to.
Yeah, we knew we had to play Yakuza 6, so we get in line. The line looked about the same, but the wait was an hour.
Yeah, right, which is 3 hours less than
it was 3 hours
last time
less.
I went there.
So we just were like, you know what, let's just stick it out. Wait in line, we need to play this game, and we did. Ended up playing it.
I ended up playing it.
I recorded off-screen footage.
We have to edit the first 5 minutes because
I didn't edit the first 5 minutes. I just posted it. I uploaded it.
So the first 5 minutes.
I'll say this before we go. Demo. And
it's just
I don't know.
It's
a 15-minute time demo. So basically, you play.
Do whatever
you can do whatever you want in the game,
for
and once 15 minutes is up, it stops and says, "Thank you for playing."
Wherever you're at,
I will say this: like I've never seen anyone ever not suck. It wasn't that you suck.
Nothing.
Is that I've never seen anyone play Yakuza for 15 minutes and accomplish less than you did at the time. You were lost for probably the first 7 or 8 minutes.
Because I'm like, okay, hold on. Let me try and explain myself. Because so you want to. I picked. There's 2 options. So you could pick the main story, which maybe I should have picked. Option. There's also a few I picked. So I figured let's kind of explore the town, see what you got or whatever.
Sure.
And that's what I wanted to do. So then the game starts, and I find the first thing I find is a building that with the door and explore.
Right.
And you know how it is in on the internet where let's say you're on Wikipedia, click one thing and then it jumps to the next and you go to the next and you just go down that rabbit hole and at the end of it you're like, well, where the fuck am I? And that's basically what my experience was in the first 10 minutes of the 15-minute demo of Yakuza 6 was hitting. I opened a couple doors which led to nothing, which led me to the roof. There was nothing there for 10 minutes and then I ended up going back down. And nothing happened. So I basically just walked for 10 minutes.
Then you got into a fight.
I did. I'm like, okay, I spent most of my demo time doing nothing, so I might as well get some combat in there and maybe a mini game, which is basically what happened. Some fight.
You got some darts.
I wanted
to Club SEGA, but none of the arcade games were working at the time.
Yeah.
But then you were able to go upstairs into Club SEGA and play some darts.
Yeah.
The guy next to us, I almost go through it. I wish I would have recorded him playing because what he was doing was way more interesting than what you did.
You could have turned the camera.
Well, no, at that point I was invested in what you were doing. But no, he went into a karaoke bar and he did. And it was the same.
Like Yakuza 0.
It was the same Yakuza 0 type thing. But then there's also some other interesting things that I saw other people doing. Like you're able to go into a gym. Work out, and it was Kiryu was doing these
back pulls,
essentially back pulls, where it's he's sitting down and he's pulling weights towards him, and there's a meter going back and forth, and you have to hit the button at the right time, and if you do it, then it's a good lift. And I assume that training will give you more power and things like that. I didn't see that, but I just kind of assumed that's what's going to happen. Game looks really good. It is a big improvement over Yakuza 0, which was developed primarily, I want to say, on the PS3, and it was ported to PS4, similar to Persona 5. But this game is a noticeable difference in graphics and fidelity and everything else. I think it's looks much better. Although like the fighting, I didn't see that you could change up the fighting styles like you could in Yakuza 0 or Yakuza
It might have been
Kiwami.
just the demo. Yeah, I just sucked.
You may have.
I tried using the directional pads to change the size,
and it didn't do anything.
It didn't do anything.
Yeah, it looked like it was a more traditional or older. The HUD looked a little more simplified. I'm gonna see if I can play it tomorrow and get my own kind of hands on it.
Opinion, yeah.
Happens with that. So, needless to say, we didn't end up playing Sonic Forces today. Go back tomorrow. So what we did, we ended up talking to a SEGA rep, and we're like, look, it's really hard for us to try to for some of these games because the lines are so long and we can't fit them all in, and we need coverage because we're trying to get it for Sega Nerds and Megavisions. So they're like, okay, back in and we'll jump you to the front of the line.
Well, this was because it was late. And
this was after is what he told us. But then we decided we're going to go over to Yakuza 6.
Right.
And then after Yakuza 6, we went over, and that's what he said. He was like, well, we've already line jumped a lot of people today. Can you come back tomorrow? Is what he said. And so I was like, okay, that's fine.
It's fine. We'll you have a whole day tomorrow.
And so I want to play Sonic Forces. I want to play Yakuza 6, Sonic Mania again, if I can.
You probably get Q jump for both Forces and Mania if you wanted to.
Probably. Because I played a Sonic in Sonic Mania on both stages. And I would like to try Tails and Knuckles in that and see just kind of how they differentiate and how they play a little bit different. I'd like to do that. Actually, all Sega had. I guess we could talk a little bit about the swag that they were giving out. So if you played Sonic Mania, you'd get or Sonic Forces. They were giving out posters for both games. Yeah, Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces. Yeah. They had posters for both games. If you went over to Yakuza, you could get a Yakuza 6 bag that fit over your back and
canvas bag, and then certain hours says
it was ridiculous. Like I remember we were in line to play Yakuza 6, and people were just coming by and were like, hey, where can I get a bag? Where can I get a bag?
Free shit.
And it's like they could care less about the game.
Mm-hmm.
All they wanted was the free shit. Mm-hmm. and we were talking about it before. Like I've over the years I've amassed so much bullshit and so much swag and stuff that I honestly don't want it. And that's not in any way a brag, but I just don't have the room for it. Like it goes into a closet
because you know exactly where it goes. At the end of the
it's just gonna stack up. Like I'm not gonna do anything with it.
It's not gonna bother you if you don't have it.
I don't want it. Like it's just because I know what's gonna happen. And I get that some people, but maybe if I had the room for it, I would want it. I don't know. I doubt it, but kind of bothered me in a way though, because and it was so evident was like they just wanted free shit.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even care about playing the game. They just wanted to come like, oh, there's a big bag I can get.
It's like some of them just really just came up. It's like, so you guys still have bag, whatever it was.
So they ran out of the bags, and then they're like, come back at 3:30, and we're going to be giving out the tissues. They gave out some Yakuza 6 themed tissues, which I got a couple of those.
I got one.
We got some tissues. Then we got some 13 Aegis, like a panoramic poster of that, which I will say, like, that game looks really good. I'm a big Vanillaware fan. I love what they did with Dragon's Crown. I was a huge fan of that game. I'm really excited that Atlas is working with them again to publish the game.
13 Sentinels.
13 Sentinels, thank you. It's something like Aegis is like the subtitle.
Yeah.
13 Sentinels. Thank you. That is the name of the game. It looks good, but they were saying that it's basically like in pre-alpha right now is what they were telling us. Like it's so early that there's no way they could show anything. So I think they had like a trailer, a cardboard cutout,
which we took a picture.
We did take a photo with. They had there, which is weird because if you're like, why even bother?
What's the point of the cutout or anything? It's like, well, you can't see it, but here's a picture.
Unless they plan on like releasing it before next year's E3 and they figure like, hey, let's just get it out there
because it's going to be out before next
year.
year.
I don't know, but being as early as they're saying it was going to be, I can't imagine that it's going to be out any earlier than that. I think we played a few games out there. So Hyperkin's booth, they have the new Atari 77, which is like a 2600 system. Apparently it's supposed to retail for like $40, which is super cheap. It looks good. We wanted to play it, but there's a little bit of a line to that tomorrow. I'm really interested in that. I want to get my hands on that. We saw her from Hyperkin, the Duke Xbox controller was gigantic.
Ugly original Xbox controller duplicate.
I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna get it. I
use it as a paperweight. Like it's not even comfortable to hold. I'd rather use the Nintendo 64 controller.
I want to say that's controllers that I played Shenmue 2 on.
My condolences. Like the one that they released following that controller was great. Like that was a great, design. And I was surprised that they were like, you know what? This is Microsoft's first console. And this is what we're gonna make as a controller. Is a gigantic fucking tank of a controller that is, I think, uncomfortable, and my fingers couldn't reach some of the buttons just because it's so big.
You have small hands. Yeah.
I have tiny hands.
I was able to reach them fine.
Well, that's because you have big hands.
Yeah.
You know what they say about big hands.
They wear big gloves.
Exactly.
So, looking back, like this has been a really fun experience. Like I've had a lot of fun. This is my first E3. I'm glad that I don't know if fundamental changes in E3.
You'd be hesitant to go back next year.
And if it's not like, it could be either. It could be E3 changing the way they're handling the general populace. SEGA changing the way that they media with the general populace. If either of those two can change and they can make it more accommodating to the media to where we're not having to stand in 3-hour-long lines, we'll come back. But if it's year, I don't know if I want to come back next year. I really don't.
I'll say this. I will agree with you on my own experiences from last year. Last year I did play more games and the wait time was considerably less for games like this. Last year I had Breath of the Wild, so that was a pretty obvious one where you would be waiting in line for a long time because it was the first time it was playable. Like Sonic Mania and Yakuza 6 and things like that. Like the wait times were ridiculous, and for every other game on the show floor was the same. And the maneuvering through the show floor, it's just like you're bumping into people constantly, and no one's wearing gigantic backpacks. It's just the sheer amount of people,
Right.
But the thing I was trying to say was I enjoyed my experience this year. Not necessarily based on the the show floor, but like the people we've met, the experiences related to surrounding the whole E3 event. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, that was definitely fun. overall, I thought Sega's showing was pretty strong. Like I think Sonic Mania looked great. The jury's still out on Sonic Forces. We're able to see people play it, but I haven't been able to play it yet. Sonic Mania looks great. I think Yakuza Kiwami, Yakuza 6 both look really solid. The 3DS stuff from, I'm sure it's going to be really good. It's more like niche type stuff, but I know that audience is really looking forward to those games. They're really good. Those aren't necessarily my cup of tea.
What did you think of so throw out the issues with attendance and like how they handle it? What did you just think of E3 in general, like the way it looks, I guess, like the whole,
I love the grandiose, like
the event
yeah,
itself.
I love like
if attendance wasn't an issue and queues weren't an issue, like, you know, like the way it's set up and everything visually and things like that.
I think I do love the grand setting of it. I love the fact that like Nintendo's booth like dwarfed almost everything else there. You know, like it was awesome to see that.
You would agree that it's different, much different from like things like MagFest.
Well, yeah, because that's more of like it's more of a fan-driven event,
right? But
this is more of an industry type event, and it was really interesting to see that because you saw it was walking around and you like business was being done. This was a much more business-focused event,
well,
but it was also weird.
Things like PAX East or West or whichever one you went to, like how would you compare that?
It was still very different because like with PAX East, it was played a middle road between a media event, but this was years ago too. This was like PAX 2012 or something like that. I haven't been in years. It played kind of the middle of a road between a fan event and a media event, but it wasn't necessarily like a business event like E3 is, where like companies are looking to do business deals. They're doing presentations to like Walmart or like that. That wasn't happening there, whereas that is what's going on in E3. And I'd love just to see that side of the business, but I hope that there are some changes going forward.
I totally agree with you,
because I think it needs to happen. It definitely needs to happen. But I think overall Sega had a good showing. I get that some people are disappointed that there wasn't this like big announcement, but like I say this every year, like temper your expectations. Don't expect HD. Don't expect, like whatever it is, Skies of Arcadia, whatever. Don't
Jet
expect
Set
that
Radio
stuff.
Future,
Yes.
or Jet Set Radio remakes of HD remakes or anything like that.
Temper your expectations. When Sega announces like this is what we're going to be showing, a lot of times
and I expect that is exactly
take
what
it at face value. Like I think they're trying to be open. They're trying to be transparent. Like this is what we're going to be showing, guys. And
I mean, but I in another sense, I get it, because it's like of companies who say this is what we're showing, and then like let's say for example E3 2015 they announced Shenmue 3, which no one expected.
It's also not safe.
But it's all exactly. But like the idea of like surprises and expecting the unexpected to not be
cliche, right. But then I think that's when you just allow yourself to be excited and surprised.
Right. But maybe once you experience that, maybe don't assume that that's going to happen every year. Maybe it's a one-off. Figured, hey, maybe since PlayStation revealed Shenmue 3, they might reveal the HD collection.
If you look at what Sega's traditionally done in the past 2 years is when they've had a new IP to announce or a new game to announce for E3. They don't announce it during E3. It's like a week out. Like when they announced Tembo a few years ago, they announced that like several weeks, like 2 weeks before when they announced it wasn't during E3. It was like a week before E3. And so the way Sega like traditionally does it is they'll announce their big releases
They do their own
before
thing.
E3, and I think the idea is that they're not being overshadowed with all the E3 madness. So they want to get out in front of it a little bit. And so once I saw that there wasn't any of that, like there wasn't any big announcement, and they sent the press release out like this is what we're showing, I was like, look, this is relatively to be expected. The only thing else that like I was surprised about is that Valkyrie Revolution wasn't there. But outside of that, it was to be expected. It was like what Sega's had on its release list. There's not a big thing. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be any big announcements later on this year.
Right.
Like there certainly could be. I mean, we have
Tokyo Game Show, PSX.
Right. There is certainly other events that might be nearer to a games where Sega could make those announcements,
but
and
they
it just
also
didn't make sense to do that at E3.
But they could do their own things like they've done, like we mentioned earlier, with Bayonetta and Vanquish, where they just like, hey, look, 4K PC. They just kind of showed an image or two and then just released it a week or two
if it's
later.
a game that we think it's going to be, if it's a game that starts with an S and ends with an E, I don't
and
think,
a 2 or a 1.
I don't think that is a game
that would
you
go
would
that
just
route.
That is a game that you announce well in advance, and you drum up support, and you make a very, very big deal about it, because that game, much bigger fan base than a Vanquish
or
Bayonetta or Typing of the Dead, whatever.
It's just got a bigger history.
It's in another ballpark, right? And especially with Shenmue 3 coming out, like if Sega were to do that at some point this year, you got to announce it before. Like you got to make a big deal about it. This is like a big release deal. You can't say, hey, by the way, Shenmue 1 and 2 HD is releasing next week.
Right.
It's got to be a big deal. And so I would expect them to announce it at an event and make a big deal about it. I would be very surprised if they.
But I would say for people who kind of got disheartened by this year's presentation, is just to not lose hope and keep it alive, because honestly, I think good things will come our way in the future.
Yeah, I think. And like I said, I was happy with Sega showing. It wasn't probably their best showing that they've had.
It's not like they dropped bombshells, but I thought it was a solid.
It's a solid show. Like I think Sega has a solid lineup the rest of the year. They have Mania coming up very soon. They have Yakuza Kiwami. They have Sonic Forces. They have Yakuza 6.
The Valkyrie Revolution.
Valkyrie Revolution coming up very soon.
Total War Warhammer.
Warhammer.
If you're into that kind of stuff.
Then they have several of the Atlas 3DS stuff. I don't know what the release dates are on all of those, but I think some of them are 2017.
Yeah.
Those are solid. I mean, that's a solid list of
lineup.
Like a lineup. In addition to whatever the Sega or Sega Forever is going to be.
In addition to the mobile initiative.
And we fully expect a big deal for Sega going forward.
So like objectively, it's a great year for them. Honestly, like Sonic Forces and Sonic Mania alone would give them bank, but like everything else is just the icing on the cake.
Yeah. I think that's going to do it for this week's podcast. I'm going to be on my own tomorrow. You're leaving in the morning. I'm going to go over there and try to play what I can. I have an interview with Tom Kalinske in the afternoon, and I think what we're going to do is just talk to him about kind of about his history of E3, talk about what his thoughts are on Sega's showing this year, and things like that. I'm really excited about it. That's gonna go into next issue of Megavisions. And
see if he can get you into like the bigwig suit meetings. Maybe he can still kind of get into like Sega's,
I'm sure he can. I'm sure he still's got that power.
That sway.
Yeah, it's Tom Kalinske. His name still
BDT.
means a lot. Yeah, his name still means a lot around here. So anyway, that's going to do it for this week's podcast. We'll be back, and the next podcast, I can kind of give my thoughts on Sonic Forces. Get some video out, and I'll put that on YouTube tomorrow. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's going to do it for this week, and we will be back next week. All right, see you later.